Well, hello everybody, it's Foxy speaking. As you know, we're in 2021, as you know, and I wanted to be in this video reflecting about 2020, which really has been quite terrible. Quite a terrible year. I mean, I don't know if I should be regarding the whole year as terrible. There had been some good things I managed to actually do in 2020. I mean, despite it's been quite a terrible year for not just me, but for all people actually throughout the world, if you don't mind me saying. I mean, throughout the world. All of us were in the same boat. I mean, I couldn't always share all this negativity following the ensuing COVID kerfuffle, which we've been enduring throughout a great deal of 2020. Yes, I mean, even though there is hope on the horizon now, and there has been for some months and even a lot more hope in recent days, as many know, but 2020 has really been quite terrible, unfortunately. Not just because of COVID, which has been quite awful, and it's devastating. Takes a huge devastation. I'm so sorry to sound negative. I'm only trying to share a truthful point, which has been to many very, very evident. Not just that, also my grandfather Edmund passed away, as you know, and when I lost Edmund, I was absolutely shattered. I mean, when he died, I didn't know what to do. And I didn't really talk about his death very much until, or share it to a few friends until about 2-3 weeks later, because I was just so upset by his death. I mean, I can share about his death now, actually, but without getting so upset. But if I'd shared it, say, within a few days to about a week after he just died, it just brought tears to my eyes. And sometimes I'd be like really, really I would really cry. I mean, I really cried if I was even sometimes about to talk about it, if it had been a few days or a week after he died. I mean, he was only 73 when he died. He would have been 74 in October of 2020, but he was 73 when he died, and unknown to me, two of my good new friends had tested positive for COVID when Edmund just died. One of the great things about 2020 was I had a reasonably nice summer. I mean, I didn't go abroad anywhere, and we didn't do the HP miniature railway, but I did go out on some public transport, sometimes in the summer, but carefully, taking things ever so carefully, and following COVID restrictions, obviously, and sometimes going out to the pub sometimes. But I did get drunk once over the summer of 2020 after drinking about 4.5 pints of beer. Oh, I mean, and I remember talking about it, I was gloating about it, which I really shouldn't have on Dave and Sally's chats. It was in late August of 2020, and I think someone got quite upset, and I am sorry for whoever I did upset on that very day. Uh, but, um, what else was I going to say? Yes, but I shouldn't have gotten drunk. I know it does happen, but, I mean, in a time like this, I mean, I could have very easily been exposed to COVID without even realising. So, not a good outcome. But one of the greatest things about 2020 was finding out about Dave and Sally Abel, two wonderful new friends, and and their live streaming chats, not to mention, absolute fun. And yes, at first I was very shy to make a live comment, and I was like, oh my goodness, when I first started watching them, it was just a video I watched and left him a comment. He got back to me. Much to my surprise, I didn't even think he would. I thought he wouldn't have seen it, but he did and got back. What else? I ended up watching one of his live streams. I was like, does he do live streams? A man in his 70s to do live streams? Yes, and I watched one of his and his wife Sally's live streams once, but I was just so shy. I watched it, but I didn't really make very many comments at first. I think the first ever comment I ever really made on Dave and Sally's live streaming chats, it was back in about April. Well, I didn't see their channel until April of 2020. I think the first ever thing I ever said on their chat was, I am terribly sorry for luring Pud. We are sorry for luring Pud into interrogation. And David, he was like, nah, you don't mind, mate. You don't mind, Pud. He said something like that. But when it came to the EFTs and such, before he ended the live series, I started making some comments on there, and I remembered one of the questions I actually asked him. Ouch, bit itchy there, sorry. And it was this comment. It was a question I asked him. I was like, I hope you don't mind me asking you, Dave, but are you prone to having chest infections? It was because when he'd had the COVID, I thought he was prone to chest infections. And I was so willing to ask him. I just hope it wasn't, like, unnecessary. I mean, he didn't seem to mind, but I was just trying to be very careful, especially as I'd just started watching it. I always try to be careful, but before long, in a relatively little amount of time, I got used to his live streams. And then I started to make some comments saying hi and asking him and Sally questions and such. And it was fun. I came on and I started coming on to the chats quite regularly, actually, every week. Well, whenever they would live stream. But before I would only say hi to Dave and Sally. But here comes the great bit. Over a course of months, actually, not only did I just end up saying hi to Dave and Sally, I also end up saying hi to other people watching it from not just there aren't just people who watch him in England, it's actually throughout the world. And the more I said hi to them, I was like, oh, this is just... And now it really brings me something to look forward to, Dave and Sally's live chats, because I get to say hi to Dave and Sally and all my wonderful global friends. Oh, dear. Yes. And then what did really surprise me, it was back in September of 2020. I think I'll say the other bit later, but getting to this bit, when I was about nearly 40 minutes late to watch the chat, and I said hi to Dave. We said our hellos, and Dave was like, So Foxy, I've been looking at a couple of your videos. Oh dear. I mean, oh, what a surprise. And I was like, oh, you haven't. When I heard that, I was like, oh, you have not. But I was aware he was a train spotter, actually, because I actually did suggest it to him on his EFT, and he said, I used to be a train spotter years ago. And then many months later, he ended up watching me. Oh dear. Yes, and he was like, what was the name of the books? Ian Allen? Was it? Yes, it was Ian Allen. I have one of his books, actually, if many of you didn't know. Yes, I mean, Ian Allen was not only a rail enthusiast in Dave's youth, he was a rail enthusiast in Edmund's youth also. That's my late grandfather, Edmund. He's a wonderful, wonderful, an extremely funny man. A very big sense of humour, and when the twinkle goes out of my eyes for Dave and Sally, I'll turn out my toes and die. I just love their friendly hospitality and entertainment in every way. It was quite a funny chat, actually, and I think around about that time or a couple of weeks earlier, I began to interact with others on the chats. And then I began to do it more regularly from about October onwards. And, yes. Yes. I interact with several of the other participants who take part in it, all my friends. Yes, and some of them, one of them actually included me in in his fan club on the comments, but forgot one of them. I was like, oh, Dave actually got very shocked for who he forgot. Oh, yeah, I probably won't say who it is because I don't want to get into trouble with any of my new friends about this. Well, I'll have to face up to the challenge if I do. Ooh. But it was great. It's great fun. Dave and Sally are the greatest source of entertainment. They really are. And I remembered in July, because I'd been coming on the chats, well, heading to the chats so regularly, someone said, I think Foxy's becoming very fond of you. I am. I'm very fond of Dave and Sally. I'm hugely fond of the man. Yes. I mean, it was just astonishing when I heard his and Sally's coronavirus, well, COVID survival, and because I didn't know about his channel at the time until I saw Good Morning Britain, and then I did some research about him, and that was how I found out about his channel. Yes. What else was I going to say? Oh yes. It was he's just wonderful. Him and Sally are wonderful, and I remembered on one of his chats, he joked about blocking one of the participants on her birthday, and then, I mean, he was messing around, really, but I actually came in and stepped up for her, and I think, well, I don't know if I really did or not. I don't think... Well, I mean, I don't know if I really believe it was me standing up to her that made him change his mind about blocking her. She didn't get blocked, luckily, thank goodness. She's far too lovely to have been blocked. But I remembered, I mean, after I stood up for her, I don't know if it was necessarily me standing up for her that made Dave change his mind, but... yes, it was on her birthday, and I remembered standing up for her. I mean, the moment I heard him talking about blocking her, I actually became quite protective of... I really shouldn't have, but I actually felt very protective of one of my new friends on the chats. And that's why I butted in and stood up for her. You know, so... And that's going to be probably quite a story. Well, probably for me, I suppose. Oh, my goodness gracious. Oh, she was like, no, don't block me on my birthday, no. Oh, and then I stood up for her. Oof. Oh, dear. Well, yes. And I can't tell you how fortunate I am to have found out about Dave and Sally. I really am. I'm profoundly fortunate. And I did even tell Dave about the loss of Edmund, and he sympathised, because I remembered I was very late to comment on that video he posted on what would have been Edmund's birthday, because I went out in his memory, and I was quite late to comment on that day because I went out in Edmund's memory. I mean, obviously carefully, because at that point I'd broken my 5th metatarsal in my left foot. It's much better now, yes, but another bad thing about this year, and made it quite terrible, was fracturing my 5th metatarsal in my left foot, which is just it's extremely painful. I mean, I don't know if I even knew. I thought it was just a sprain, but I didn't even know I'd fractured my 5th metatarsal at that point till I found out. But when I found out about it in the hospital, it came as an absolute shock. It really did. I mean, it's great I found out. But, but what is good? I was healing up okay, you know, and I have to say, after finishing the healing process, I'm much more agile in my left foot than I've ever been in my life. my left foot has healed up much more strongly than I actually anticipated, which could explain why I'm more agile in the left foot. I wouldn't boast about it, because there are many people who do fracture their certain bones in their feet and legs and don't heal up as strongly. And I actually, my heart would go for, I'd go for them. I mean, it's sad, but it's just one of those things which happens. Yes. Yes, but, there you go. Here it is. But here's to, a happier 2021. I mean, despite the first part being a rotten start, but happier days are here again. Nope, not yet, but they will come heading into the several months. Yes. I did see a few changes in 2020, but not a great deal due to COVID. But found out many good YouTube channels, some I'd seen from before, endorse them as coronavirus entertainers, if many of you didn't know. And yes. Well, and that was 2020 for you. But I don't know if I could shed too much more, because for a lot of people, we're all in the same boat. We're clearly all, almost certainly in the same boat. It's been a terrible year to have endured. Dear, oh dear. But there are happier years ahead. Well, thanks indeed for watching, everybody. And here's to 2021. I'm just so sorry if I made anything sound so negative about 2020. But here's to 2021, everybody. Thanks so much for watching, and ta-ta, everybody. Another time. From your friend Foxy. Another time. Here's to 2021.